folks! It's that time. It's SketchUp Live. It's Friday. It is December 16th. Last stream of the year. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. We got some great rendering tips coming your way. We got some great layout tips. We're going 3D to 2D. We're going rendering. We're doing it all. And the man who's doing it is coming at you right now. Here he comes. It's Mr. Eric Sargent.
Applause. Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh. See, the problem with Matt doing the intros is that I've got to now live up to what his build up. So
all that
he's absolutely right. First of all, thanks everyone. Happy Friday. It is our last stream of the year and I am honored to be able to do it. I was thinking about a topic for today. Of course, the last time you saw me, I kind of got the holiday right after Halloween. So I did something that was a little bit themed on that. And of course, we're going into holiday break here. So of course, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's got to be something to do with snow and some lights and maybe some snowmen, maybe some snowballs or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're just going to get right into it. There's nothing really any housekeeping I need to say. I mean, it's Friday. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be some casual. I actually, I'll start by giving a little bit of background as to sort of coming up with an idea for today. I've got an image here behind me. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Some of you have seen this before. This model, I've used it. I like to use it because it's kind of versatile, but also there's a reason why I picked this specifically. But for me, I'm really bad about sending holiday cards. I don't know about you all. I think I overthink it. I don't want to go buy store-bought cards because it just feels like, I don't know. It's just, I don't like spending. First of all, they're expensive. But second of all, it's like we're creative people. I feel like going and just getting a box of store-bought cards and then writing your name on it and sending it out. I can do better than that. So what I end up doing is nothing at all because I end up thinking I'm going to make my own card. And I never do. So this live model is sort of an attempt for me to basically say, what would I do if I actually sat down and had the time and energy to make a holiday card? So that's what I'm gonna do. I've got two different ideas. We're gonna do one is sort of a little bit of a warm up. We're gonna ease in today, knowing that not everybody comes right in at 11. Some people have to come in. It's 11 my time. I'm on the West Coast, but whatever time you're coming in. So we're gonna do a little warm-up exercise, kind of have some fun, play around a little bit, and that's just one of my holiday card ideas. And then this image behind me, this is gonna be a little bit more of a final. We're gonna turn this into a fully rendered, lit up, nighttime, holiday kind of serene winterscape scene. So we got a lot to do. We might even get to layout. Matt mentioned layout. I was like, well, we might get to layout. That might be kind of fun to bring that into.
Oh no, I didn't.
So Matt, anything you want to say?
I was gonna say, that sounds amazing. And I like the idea that you're using this opportunity for to use work to get your personal stuff done. You want a holiday card and you're like, well, I can't do that on my own time, but I'll do it on work time. That's cool. So I think that's a good idea.
Well, I think that nowadays well, you know what? It just goes back to, for me, to show the versatility of SketchUp as a non-necessarily architectural tool. And I know it sounds like anyone who's watching, you're probably already sold, so I don't need to convince anybody. But for me, I love to find uses for it that are sort of outside of my discipline, right? So it's not necessarily technical drawings or teaching or something. Maybe it's just figuring out where to place a painting on a wall in my house, and I'll just measure the wall, build that wall in SketchUp, place a couple of different paintings on it, take an idea. I love to find ways that are sort of, I want to say adjacent to what we do. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, you always got to think outside the box. Hey, you have such a creative mind, and a lot of ideas floating around up there. So what better way to make them real than by the beautiful 3D modeling program SketchUp from Trimble.
SketchUp. So let's just go ahead and get to it, because like I said, I love to try to do too much as opposed to just picking one small simple thing and just keeping and perfecting that. I try to do a lot, and then I just see how far I get. So I'm going to be consistent. If anything, you can call me consistent. So let's go ahead and get started. I went ahead, I'm going to switch to my main screen, because as much as you'd like to see me modeling with my head really big, I might actually be blocking some
You're
stuff.
getting in the way.
I'm going to shrink myself. I'm going to shrink myself down here using the magic of technology. Okay.
Whoa!
Very magical.
I know we said we were going to do snow scene, and you can see I'm done. My winter scene is
All the
there. You can
styles.
see my ground plane is the snow is freshly fallen, and the sky is still sort of gray and misty. That is in the styles, but I'm going to start by switching that. And the reason why is because I like to model with a white background and no ground plane. That's just my preference. So whenever you see my videos, you'll see that sort of aesthetic. But I think when we're talking about modeling something like snow, we should probably give it a ground that isn't white, because I'm going to be, we're going to be working with white today, or like a light gray. So I'm going to just go ahead and give myself a little bit of a gray tone for today, and hope that's okay. Update my style. Now let's talk about this little warm-up exercise, because I'm not only do I procrastinate and not make a holiday card when I say I'm going to, but part of it is also picking one idea when I've got hundreds of them to choose from. And even just prepping for this, kind of thinking about what we're going to do today, I came up with a couple of different ideas. So we're going to do a couple of different ideas today. One of them I think is going to be pretty easy for any of you who maybe grew up like myself in the 80s or 90s. You may be familiar with Calvin and Hobbes. Actually, even if you didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s, hopefully you're still familiar with them. I love the Snowman scenes. I love his Spaceman Spiff. I love the T-Rex stuff. Bill Watterson is not only an amazing artist, but he's hilarious, and there's something about the snowmen that every time I see one of those snowman graphics, I think they're hilarious. So that's where my mind went first when I said holiday scene. I was like, let's build some snowmen and then do something fun with them. So this is what we're going to do. Is just kind of a little ease in. You can see it shouldn't be too difficult. So bear with me. We're going to go ahead and recreate that scene in 3D and see what that does for us. So feel free to chime in with questions. Interrupt me as much as you want. This is just, we're going to be a little bit casual today. If we don't get all the way through everything, that's totally fine. So first thing I'm going to do, speaking of styles, is add a watermark. So Matt, if there's any comments or anything, let me know. Interrupt me, please, and I will just add a watermark for my reference image.
Oh yeah, that the watermark sounds great. What I was going to say is, sometimes it's nice to model something like you're talking about this as a warm-up. Model something that's outside of your normal routine or your normal way of doing things, just to kind of, get the neuroplasticity warmed up. Just test some different ways of doing things out, and kind of, challenges you wouldn't normally see in your everyday work.
Yes, I have a shortcut for add scene. So I'm going to make a watermark scene. I'm going to come back to my style. I'm going to make sure that I have my regular scene. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that too. So this is kind of typically what I do all the time, is I'll have kind of a working scene, which is just, kind of stripped down and with a basic style. And then of course I'll have, if I'm using a reference, I'll add a watermark scene in that as a reference. I don't know if you noticed that, but another reason why I don't use the ground plane is when you add that watermark, I often use my watermarks in the background, but I don't know if you guys saw when I was setting this up. I'll go back and do that again. If you go back and you put it as, if I redo that, sorry, I don't have to redo it. I can just drag my watermark and put it below or behind my SketchUp model. It puts it behind the background. So even though the background isn't geometry, it's not actually in my model, it's just a style. The watermark reads that. So again, just another reason I tend to not use the ground plane just when I'm working.
Yeah, there must be some super big snowmen if they're peeking over the horizon like that. I got some Godzilla snowmen over there.
Well, I kind of scaled them to the person, like here in my scene that I'm about the car height. So I'm just kind of want to make sure that I'm modeling to a 1-to-1 size, which is why I have my scale figure in there. So let's get to it. Let's make some snowmen. So I'm going to go to my working scene here. And the first thing I'm going to do, and I have a tendency to work really like zoomed out really far, but I'm trying to remind myself that when people are watching, they might be like, can you zoom in just a little bit? Because so we can see better. So I'm going to try and do that for y'all. I know that inferencing, Tyson, if he was here, is he online?
He is in the chat.
He might say, Eric, just inference this, but I like to just use a guide. I often use guidelines personally whenever I need something and I just delete the line. I'm not even talking about guides. I'm talking just a line for me rather than go through the inferencing.
Sacrificial geometry.
I don't really care. Sacrificial geometry, exactly. So here's my cube. Sorry, not my cube. It's Friday. It's my sphere.
The rounded version of
Got to start with this. Got to start with my sphere. We're gonna do the snowman. We're gonna do the snowman first, and then what I'm gonna do is I'll grab a car actually from 3D Warehouse because I don't want to spend this whole time modeling a car. That's not really the point. The point is to kind of put snow on stuff and have a little bit of fun. So I'm going to make this a component because I know I'm going to use this sphere more than once, and then scale it holding. Oh, you can see, oh, the option alt doesn't show up on my keycaster. So unfortunately, I will still call that out. I'm using the modifier, so you can't see it on my screen keycaster that shows up. And by using that modifier, that scale, for those of you who know, it scales not from the corner, but it scales from the center. So that's really helpful where I want to keep that vertical alignment there. And then last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have to make this one unique though, right? Because this is the head. Does that look right for a proportion, or should I shrink that down a little bit?
Oh, that's a little hefty. I don't know. It might be a little top heavy.
Wouldn't that be funny?
This guy's
All
full
right,
of himself
so we're gonna go
here in a big head.
He's got a big head. So I'm going to switch back to that watermark. I'm going to be doing that a lot. So they're kind of leaning forward. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I take that into account, especially when I'm placing the mouth, when I do his mouth. And so there's gonna be a little bit of a movement. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky. You know, you can use the arrow keys to lock things, but sometimes it's a little bit hard to know exactly where, especially when you're dealing with a sphere, because it's not that easy. You can turn on hidden geometry and you can kind of move it from hidden geometry, but sometimes it's hard to get it like exactly where you want it. So you just, if I kind of zoom around a little bit, just forgive me.
Yeah, no, keep orbiting to get an idea of where you're at.
And this is going to be the mouth. So what I'm going to do is figure out not only where I want it positioned, but I also need to think about the shape. So if I want it to be wider, something like that, I can scale it after the fact. Again, I'm going to go back to my watermark, and they're all just shocked at this scene of seeing their buddy.
Agape. Just jaws on the floor.
So this, I want to kind of get that through. So what I want to do is just figure out how deep that I want this to go. And I want to maybe not go that deep, right? Because if you were thinking about this actually being a real snowman, you wouldn't go like really far in there. You would just kind of scoop out a little bit. And this is where Solid Tools comes in handy. I don't use Solid Tools a lot, but I love Solid Tools as an idea. And I would love to find ways to use them more because they're just so powerful. You can see how I just used the subtract solid tool, and it just, not only did it subtract it, but it left the insert obviously for the mouth.
For people unaware, solid tools is like Boolean operations in SketchUp, adding and subtracting kind of whole shapes from each other or to each other.
And using the scale tool, if I wanted to like, you know, distort the mouth by pushing it in a little bit, I know that this isn't I wouldn't do, if I really wanted an accurate control over this, I wouldn't do it this way. I would do it with quad modeling, right? And then subdivide and smooth. But that would be a different. Isn't that what Aaron and Tyson both did? Subdivision.
Yeah, the last two ones have been organic, organic modeling. So hey, now you're showing some rounded geometry that's no extensions needed.
Yeah, no extensions needed. So exactly. I'm kind of old school, like, and by old school I mean that I just don't know of a lot of extensions. You know, there's some that like, of course, that does it, but if I can avoid it, then
yeah,
like if I can do it with native tools, just do it with native tools.
Sure, there's certainly a learning curve. You know, some more than others, but yeah, sometimes you just got to get the job done, and so.
That's right. I mean, if I really knew what I was doing and I was really thoughtful, I mean, I would spend the time to go through and definitely consider what extensions, you know, are good for what. So I'm a little wonky here, and I think that's okay because this is a cartoon after all. So I think the more things are tilted and sort of off-kiltered, kind of like when we were doing with the Jack Skellington model, the better.
Yeah, they're a little askew,
right now, this
just
is
like Bill Watterson's view of the world, if you know what I mean. Just like it takes something and looks at it just with a little bit of a different tilt to it, okay, than normal. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I no, I identify with Calvin's dad more than anyone, right?
Mm.
Because my poor kids, I'm just like, this is going to build character for you, and they're like, we don't want character, Dad. We just want to be left alone. Um, so let's go back to that watermark. Their eyes are just circles, and then we're going to do a nose, and we're going to do sticks for hands. So this should be pretty simple. And then what we'll do is, I'm only going to make one, so that's why I'm using a component out of these. And then we're going to build a little scene for them. So let's do the eyes. I'm going to use the same component. I'm using the stamp feature, which is using the modifier. So I'm just kind of stamping these. And that's just so I don't have to copy that twice using the move tool.
Nice. Tyson in the chat is asking about the end of this is going to be adding authentic watercolors, right?
Authentic watercolors.
That's the last step of this. He wants you to get the watercolor palette out, I think.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be sweet.
Another time next year.
I don't know that we're gonna watercolor this. I don't know if that's right. I'm gonna oh, if I go to my watermark, this is where also too, if I can start to, if I wanted to, move these around and scale these down a little bit. So if I can start to sort of get a position, if I wanted to think about sort of the way they're looking, or I can do that now, or I can do that sort of after the fact.
I was wondering if there's
Not
any
really
reason
liking
you were
these
doing
eyes.
it at a different scale than the watermark, if whatever. But
No, just working big, just by nature, like just working larger than I have
Yeah.
to. Nope, that doesn't work. All right. I'm gonna leave the eyes alone. We'll come back to that right there. So a carrot is a carrot is kind of fun. There's so many different ways. I could just use excuse me, follow me, and just spin like a cylinder, a tapered cylinder.
Okay.
Or I could, speaking of subdividing, if I wanted to do something a little bit more kind of, again, going back with sort of a little bit wonkier, I'm just using the modifier here and the scale tool to kind of rotate and kind of curve around a cylinder, and I'm getting narrower as it goes up, right? And I'll show you why in just a second, why I'm kind of doing it this way. That's what I love, is that, you know, there's just different ways to do it.
Yeah, this is cool. What's up, Doc? I'm getting hungry. I need a little ranch dressing over here to go with that carrot.
So you can kind of imagine this now, if we wanted to, we could leave it low poly if that was the goal, or just as a kind of giving Tyson and Aaron credit where it's due, they've reminded me that Artisan is this great tool, or you could use, if you have sub D, obviously, and use the tools you have. They share a lot of overlap, so I'm not saying they're exactly the same or that they do everything the same, but they, let me see, which one is subdivide, and that one is subdivide and smooth. So in this case, yeah, this is basically saying take those lower poly and give it some more poly. If I wanted more than that, I could say 2, but because this is going to be shrunk down to just a tiny little nose, I'm just going to hit 1 as its iteration and hit return. And you can see what happened with that, all that sort of clunky geometry, not clunky, but boxy geometry is now kind of smoothed a little bit.
It's like you used a vegetable peeler to get the skin off.
Yeah. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to make that a component, and I'm going to give that, I paint on the outside of the component. Some people say don't do that. It really just depends on what the task is. There's definitely reasons why you should and shouldn't paint on the outside of the component. So this is where switching into sort of the architect or landscape architect in me goes into plan view to sort of be able to get that positioning correctly. Because when you're orthogonal, yeah, you can get that. Scale-wise, all right, I got to keep moving on because I said this was going to be a warm-up exercise, and if I keep doing this, it's going to be we're going to spend our whole time on this, which wouldn't be bad either. Wouldn't be a bad way to spend time together.
No,
turning comics into real life.
Yeah, it's always fun tweaking a snowman. Omar in the chat said he likes your shirt and asked if it was available in a swag store online. Unfortunately, I don't think, and check me if I'm wrong if you know this, but I don't think there's a a place to obtain a shirt like that online, is there?
Well, I don't know if it's like hidden, but we do have a swag shop and it is publicly available, but it's meant for our staff that we can get our own swag for when we attend, whether we are going to a conference and we want to give swag out and we have to order some, or whether we're getting some for ourselves because we're being told that we have to wear something. But it's not behind a paywall. It's not, there's no login or anything. So as far as I know, anyone can go there if they
Hmm.
have the link and buy the shirt. So I'm saying I'm going to wait until see what corporate says before I before we send the link out. But
Check with the
as far as I know,
lawyers.
it's
Yeah. Oh, that's somebody. So some internet
we should be
sleuth.
selling our shirts. Why are we not selling
Yeah.
our
No, I
shirts?
agree with
You know?
that. I think we need to spread the love and make those available. It would make a great stocking stuffer, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, for those last minute gift, we do rush orders, worldwide. I think you'd get some people.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it on the wish list for 23. Some more easily accessible shirts and also socks and probably other stuff too. Stickers. Oh man, possibilities are endless over here. I'm like psyched.
This is not the cleanest way to do this. I'm maybe going to back up on that a little bit. You can see what's happening here. I'm making the snowman's fingers and I'm just using the like a hexagon so that it looks like a branch. So I could do this with a circle, but of course you're going to get more geometry that way. You could do it with a square, which would be fine. It would actually get less geometry that way, but I think that sort of hexagon's a nice sort of hybrid between a square and a circle. And let me turn my profiles on. Oh, they are on. I'm going to change my line style briefly I'm going to beef up my profiles just a little bit for this part because I'm just working with lines and I think it might be kind of hard for everyone to see. But basically I was using the follow me tool and then I was distorting it. And I think what's happening here is that it's when you then use the scale tool on that sort of more complex shape, it doesn't really like that. So I can also, as an alternative, if you remember when we did our Jack Skellington one, we were doing all of those. Remember we were doing all the metal fencing,
Right.
like the wonky fencing. We can use an extension called pipe along path. We can give that, I don't know what the diameter of this is going to be, so maybe 0.5. And then number of segments, again, 6 or 5 if we want even less, and click OK. So sometimes that just creates, depending on whether you want the follow me tool or you want to use the pipe along path, not only can it do, it just depending on what you're doing, it may work better. So what I want to do is take, and because it's grouped, the nice thing about that is that it actually comes in a little bit separate from the rest of your geometry. So if I wanted to scale that up or whatnot, it's protected. It's sort of protected from its envelope compared to, yeah. Yeah, there's no sort of like follow me and taper. I mean, maybe there's an extension that does that, but extension, pipe along path.
Yeah, I like the idea of a silver bullet extension that's just like, I want a snowman arm branch, and then it would just make it.
So anytime you are going to have more than one of something, go ahead and just make it a component now. The nice thing about that is that you can always change your mind later if you decide that you don't need it a component. Whoops. Oh, this is kind of a fun thing. Sometimes when it's a component and you want to mirror it or flip it, sometimes I find that if I change the axis first, now all of a sudden I changed the axis so that it's more orthogonal. You notice when I made the component, I drew it off axis.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I wanted to use the flip along command, I wouldn't be able to, right? So now I can use that and it'll flip it along, it flips it along the axis. So if I wanted to flip it, say, because I changed it, I need to flip along the blue. And then all of a sudden now it mirrors it sort of exactly, as opposed to, otherwise you got to go in and rotate it, which is, that's fine too. I guess if you didn't mind, you could use the rotate tool and just say, just rotate it and just do it that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, you want to know if I'll show you something. This is going to be fun because I'm going to show you a little trick that I like to use quite a bit, and I don't get to show it off. Not really a trick. Just something that, it's just a thing that you do.
Ooh, I like that.
So that one, I'm just gonna, instead of flipping, I'm just gonna take that 180 because I'm looking for that variety, a little bit. I'm to keep that. Oh, that's not right. Let's see here. Let's flip along. So just so it doesn't look exactly the same, flip along components red. And all right, I want to build the scene. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on the snowman because I really want to build the scene for it's more about that interaction that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and make that a component for now. Call that one done. Maybe I should at least give it. Are all of our usual suspects with us today? Should I give some shout outs?
Yeah, I think most people
Transom with
Transom's
us.
here. Yeah.
Peggy's with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. RT Cool, maybe not yet. I think he comes in fashionably late. This is where we come over to 3D Warehouse, because if we go to our scene, if we go back to our watermark, there's this kind of cartoony car. And if I did want to take the full 2 hours to do the scene, I would model that car. It's simple enough that we could just model that, but it's going to take a little while. You need to, I would trace the profile, you need to extrude, of course, and we build each component separately. So it would take a little bit of time. So just for sake of being able to do, just kind of get through this sort of warm-up exercise, I'm going to pop over. I say cheat, but it's not cheating. It's 3D Warehouse. It's being smart. I want to do low poly car and hope that I can find one that works. We don't want too low poly. I think this one here is not exactly the car that I'm looking for, but it's going to work well enough. Now, normally I say when you're downloading stuff from 3D Warehouse, download it in a separate model and check it first. So I just kind of broke my own rule there. The reason why is because you're always going to get tags, hidden geometry, stuff's not going to be grouped right. Just take a moment. I did get a tag. So it's okay. I just delete that tag. Now this is kind of fun. Unfortunately, the watermark won't work, so I will have to bring the image reference in for this. I want that very iconic Calvin Hobbes parents purple, like his dad's or his mom and dad's car, his purple color. So what's cool about using not just the standard eyedropper, so if I just use the paint bucket with the modifier, it's going to say, first of all, I need to explode this first. But if I did that, it's going to sample the entire texture. Mm-hmm. But if I just want that purple, it's kind of tricky. Just because it's not tricky, it's just small, it's hard to see, but there's this little tiny eyedropper here. So for those that don't know that, you can grab that. Now I have that purple, so I could save it to a swatch if I wanted to, or I could just come in here and come into the car, select all with the same material, and then I just use my paint bucket because it was still active.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I don't like that antenna, so I'm going to pull that out now. I don't want to pull this out, so I'm going to undo that. This is the kind of hard part. I want to grab just that, group it, delete it. Okay. So Matt, well, I'm just kind of going and prepping this car here. Any big plans for the holidays? Anyone else in the chat got anything going on that we should know about?
Yeah, I saw some people talking about weather. We definitely got some snow over here in Michigan. Not a lot. It's flurries, but always, hoping for a white Christmas, of course. But yeah, no, I don't have any super special plans. Seeing my wife's side of the family, my side of the family as well. So it's time to spend time with loved ones, and hey, there's gonna be a lot of merriment. I don't know. Hopefully, there's enough snow to make a snowman and recreate a scene similar to this. I remember trying to recreate Calvin and Hobbes scenes when I was a kid, but it was way too much. Or Snowman, I mean. Hard to get him to pose in a specific way, without falling over.
It goes to show that you can do a lot with just a pen and paper that you can't do in real life.
Yeah, that's part of the fun, I suppose. The whimsy. You're a sketcher. You have a sketchbook, so I'm sure you are familiar with that feeling of creating something you couldn't make in real life.
Yeah, this is kind of tough part because sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when you're trying to do a rotate from a distance, it wants to go the opposite way because you don't really have a clear point of reference. So then I get confused because am I entering in the degrees negative or positive? So depending on whether, like, am I getting like, okay, now I'm going that way. That's the opposite way I want to go. This is the way I want to go. And I want to do like 10 degrees, 20. Yeah, okay, 40. So do you know what I mean? I don't know if anyone else has those problems. I could do a whole YouTube live stream of just, does this happen to you?
Has this ever happened to you?
Does this ever happen? Does this ever happen when you
Did you ever notice?
Did you hate it when? Did you what do you do? What do you do when you yeah. No, I don't know if that would be as much fun. Of a live stream.
I'd like it.
So we've got our three little snowmen here. I think that the car is sort of, I think I'm going to have to like cheat a little bit because I know that I want to put his body here. So now this is where we get to come over here. All that hard work that I did, I made it unique and I'm going to explode it. Actually, I'm not going to explode it yet. I'm going to rotate it. We are at our half an hour mark, so I've got to finish. I didn't say half an hour though, did I?
No, hey, the timing's all up to you.
Don't ever say. Don't ever give a time because then you're going to be stuck to it.
No commitments.
Okay. So I'm going to explode. I'm going to group the middle portion together and I'm going to come down here. Whoops. When I do that, I need to make sure that I grab all of these things. I'm going to group those together and I'm going to switch over to my watermark and I'm going to move that down here. I hope that's down. Yeah, that looks like it's down.
Yeah. I buy it.
And I may actually have to do a different head. And the reason why is because, I don't know if I'm going to for this example, but you'll notice that his head, he has a different expression than everyone else because he's dead.
No longer with us. Yeah.
Or at least near, getting close.
He's almost...
Stay away from the light. Stay away from the Christmas lights.
Everything's light out there. It's snow blindness, man.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Because this one's unique, I can go ahead and take those branches, the arm branches, and I can go ahead and sort of reposition those. I'm just going to take that one off completely because I don't even know if you can see it. Yeah, all right. All right. Okay. So now the next thing is going to be these guys. You'll notice their arms. This is what I wanted to say when I had a trick. You'll notice that they're all three kind of the same facial expression, which is why I'm using the same snowman, but each one of them has arms in different positions. So in a way, I put the arms into one snowman and that copied it to all of them. So what I found, and I maybe someday that maybe there's a faster way to do this, but I actually copy the arms. Mm-hmm. I'll just group them just to speed it up. I copy those, I go out of the group and I paste it in place. So now I just have floating arms, but I didn't delete them. And the reason why is because I need the arms. I need these arms as well. So copy those, exit, paste in place. Grab these guys' arms, copy them. He's the last of the three, delete them, come out here, paste in place. And now what I can do is the sticks themselves are obviously components, but the way that I group them are not. So what I would do here is come over here to my watermark style. And then you can see this first guy has his, I don't know, maybe I don't need the watermark style. That might make it confusing. I'm just going to go ahead and.
It's got the arm down by the side. Is that what you're?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just going to get this arm. It's because I'm doing this off axis now. So you can see I would have to do what Tyson is much better at than I am, which is because there's nothing for me to align to. So if I really wanted to, and I will, again, credit where it's due. Tyson, sometimes he'll create a throwaway block and he'll just set that there. What he'll do is he'll end up grabbing this object and then he'll use a throwaway object as his reference point. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, although it's a little bit harder, sometimes it's easier to move it that way. But when you're doing the rotation tool. Yeah.
So I was going to say, could you leave it on the ground and then use the down arrow key to lock to that? Or no, because it would still be a Yeah,
No,
different
because
plane.
it's still referencing, I'm drawing it off axis. I could change the model axis, which if that's easier, I could go in, that's a better way to do it, and that's a good point. If I wanted to, I could come over here and just go ahead and place this and say, let's pretend that I want this to be orthogonal to my guy.
Hmm.
Now my model axis, if I go in and grab this, um, oh, did it? Oh no, because it's doing it inside of the group. So if I exploded that, the group axis overrides the model axis. So it's only if I am working either outside of the group or I change the group axis or the component axis. So if I got that wrong, somebody feel free to correct me. I love it when I get corrected because I learned something.
Sounds right to me.
Okay. I learned from a kid in high school. He said, just say it with authority and people will believe you. Just say it and don't like blink. Don't like, and then they'll be like, "Oh, that must be true. He said it. He was so convincing
Yeah,
in his tone."
just hey, strong convictions and
All right.
move forward.
Yep. Yep. All right. So this one here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. This guy here, I think he has his hands up like, oh no. It's kind of like the monkeys see no evil, hear no evil. This guy's like, no way. What happened here? I can't believe this. Which snowman would you be if you saw your friend get run over?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd throw my
It's
hands
a
up in
terrible
the
question,
air
by the way.
and wave them like I just don't care. Yeah,
They're not waving them like they don't care. They're waving them like they
care a lot.
like they care a lot. They care so much
This is
that
their
they're
friend, their confidant.
yeah. All right, and then this last guy, he has them outstretched out in front of him. It's a little difficult to see because I'm layering everything. So that one should be pretty easy because I can use the blue axis, and I can just so no matter where I am in the model, I can just hit the up arrow key and just pull those sort of forward. And yeah, I think that's. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what is that? What do our friends think?
Yeah, what do you think in the chat? You like
Are we
like how
close?
this turned out? You want to move down to the next next example there? The next.
Oh, are you trying to mic me? Are you Oscars micing me?
I wish I had some music to play. The only music I have to play is this. It's not exactly as subtle, as orchestra playing you off.
I'm gonna do one more thing and I'm gonna call it. And the reason why is because I think you hyped, and I'm gonna call you out, Matt, because you said we're gonna put some snow on stuff. This is holiday. We're gonna be doing some winter stuff. So I'm gonna put some snow on stuff, and then we're gonna go ahead and call this one as a done. So I need to go back open. I closed the tool palette for Artisan. Now Artisan has this cool, you can subdivide and smooth, or you can just subdivide. So if you start with a rectangle, you can either use, so Artisan triangulates its subdivisions, whereas if you use sandbox tools and you wanted a plane to manipulate, it's in quads. So you just kind of have to think about, or does sandbox hide the triangle within the quad? I have to double check. See? So I'm going to go ahead and subdivide, and then what happens, you can see what's happening is the hidden geometry turns on, and it's turning into, hopefully you can see that, it's the hidden geometry is on, and it's subdividing. So what I'm going to do is subdivide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The more subdivisions, first of all, the more you do it, it's going to slow down a little bit. But what it's going to do is it's going to give a finer mesh for you to work with. I'm going to do some snow sculpting. So the last thing, if you wanted to, I could group these so that I don't select them.
Okay.
And then turn on my hidden geometry. If you want just more detail, like in a certain area, you can actually just select just the area where I know that the crash is happening. And I'm going to go ahead and subdivide that one, or if I wanted to, 2 more times. And what's cool about that is that you can have this sort of a little bit like what Aaron was showing last week. You can have more detail or less detail depending on where your sculpting occurs.
Yeah, I like it.
So I need to put my radius at like 2 foot, and I need to figure out why I'm pointing down. Okay, I don't know why. I must have been sculpting something really big.
Yeah, that's hefty.
That's a lot of up arrow keys. That's a lot of up arrow keys, isn't it?
So you can
I
fill the
don't
whole
know why. I
screen.
must have been sculpting a giant mountain or something because I'm trying to get this. So I'm using the same sculpt brush that Tyson used, and I'm just going to go ahead and just manipulate the snow to sort of show that not only maybe the snow around the edges of the snowman were impacted from, because these are snowmen who either were built or they need maybe some stability or maybe some chunks had fallen off of them. So I think that there's going to be some snow pile from the impact. The other thing I can think about too is if I wanted to, is you could push down, like I want to make some tire treads.
Oh,
So if you wanted to make it look like he skidded in, skidded to a stop. And of course, now it's kind of a, Calvin built this around the car. So I know the car didn't actually skid and hit the snowman, but I'm just going to kind of pretend like it
yeah,
did.
it tells the story. Maybe he did
And
that in order to make it more realistic to fool his parents or whatever.
yes. And you can do the same thing here by placing if you just wanted to, I copied the plane of the low poly car,
Mhm.
and I can just subdivide that as well. And what's cool about that is that I use the same sculpting tool and I lower the resolution to 0.5 foot. And what's cool about this is that I can just, whoops, that's too strong, is I can just give the impression of like a snow piling up on the car
Ah,
just by pulling this up. And
that's
you do
cool.
not have to have the hidden geometry on. If the hidden geometry is distracting, you can go ahead and turn that off so that you're seeing just the plane. I'm getting some Z fighting, as you can see, and as you can see,
Nice.
bad joke.
Wait, hold on, hold on. I knew I could use the sound effect there.
So to avoid that Z fighting, you just drop this down as far as how much you want to see the snow or don't want to see the snow. So if I take that down just 0.5 inches or even just 0.25 inches, that's just enough to pull that flat plane below the surface so that when I sculpt, um, I'm actually pulling up through the roof, the little trick there that I think is, which I'm going to use in our little holiday scene that we're going to do, which is sort of our proper holiday card. This is more like
The fun one.
just
Yeah,
our
no, I like
fun
that
holiday
idea
card.
of it makes it look a little bit more organic where it's just kind of tapering off at the bottom, the snow. So yeah, that's
So
cool.
if I wanted to do a cartoon style, I could pull my darkness down and my lightness down and my darkness up. And what that's going to do is it's going to take out all the shadows. So there's no shadows at all. The next thing I'm going to do, and then I know Matt's already given me my cue that I'm to move
Get
on.
Nancy,
So
get the hook out. What is that? One of those big canes?
I'm going
Yeah.
unless anyone in the chat is having, unless there's enough of you that are like, let him go, then obviously push back on Matt. But I am going to, I'm just kidding, Matt. I don't mean to,
Hey, I'm happy to stay on this.
I'm
I
not
love
disagree.
Calvin and Hobbes. I'm happy to stay on this one all day. I don't care.
I just threw in a little bit of a backdrop here. And then what I'm going to do is create a new style. And this time I'm going to turn that ground. Remember, I turned it gray so that I could see the snow while I was modeling. I'm going to go back and put that white, and that's nice because it goes all the way to the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using the style instead of a ground plane. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new style, and then I'm going to also turn off view axis off. And then the last thing I want to do is I probably want to hide the edges of this. If you have selection tool, if you use selection tools, toys or tools, toys, you can select what's called only border edges. And what's cool about that is you can see I had all this hidden geometry. So if I select all this stuff, it selects all these hidden edges, right? So I could, so in this case, what I would do is select all of those and say, no, actually, I only want to select the border edges. So I would come down over here, border edges, and then I'm just going to use my keyboard shortcut to hide those. And then what's cool about that is, although it's not going to remember it in my watermark scene. I'm going to have to go and redo that. I have to do it in the watermark scene.
Right.
The other option, depending on how high poly this is you could come up here and go extensions. And there's a great one that's called by Fredo, I believe, called hide all edges. Now the problem with this is you lose the edges on the mounding where the snow piles are. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back in again and just select, oh, this time because it's grouped, I didn't have to use the select border edges. I could just do the triple click and then deselect the face. Hopefully that made sense. And okay, Matt, thanks for, no, not just Matt, sorry. Thanks everybody for humoring me while I get my little Calvin and Hobbes fix out of the way. I think for, again, I think for 25 minutes worth of work or so, I think that could be a cool holiday card.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
Or
There you go. Thanks for watching, folks. Take it easy.
all right, short and sweet. Out. I'm out.
No.
For those of you, I'm going to close this one. For those of you that really did come to see, a holiday scene, I think we should probably get to the main event. So, what I wanted to take a few minutes and just explain this model that we built. This was actually for the 2020 product graphic. So product graphic, we use that term, means when you launch SketchUp, there's usually a cool, really inspirational image like we have right now. And we'll use it for like help pages, and we'll use it for other parts, like if you get an error message or something like that, or if you're offline. So this is one that I was lucky enough to be involved in, which is why I have the model and why I continue to kind of use it as an example, because it's nice. It has enough information that it lets us expand our reach a little bit, but it's simple enough that we can use it for like one-off little exercises. So if you see me using this again, it's just because not because I'm lazy, but because it actually works really well for that.
And it's also serene. It's like a nice little getaway on a private island over here.
Yeah, and there's no pathway, so there's no way to actually get to it. You just have to levitate, or maybe there's an underground elevator. So we're just going to suspend disbelief. All great storytellers should.
Yeah, if it's your island, you could make a private elevator in there. Have you watched White Lotus on HBO?
No. Do you want to tell them?
There's it's set in Sicily, in Italy, and there's an island with a lone house on it in that. So I thought it was relevant. But no problem. I'll have to just jive with the chat on that, and then you can continue on your lesson here. It's great, though.
All right. Well, speaking of levitating, I just noticed that there's a floating lady off into outer space. So that is how you get up here, by the way. You go from the boat dock, and then you levitate up, and you're there.
Cheat code.
So here's what I want to do with this one. I want to do two things. I want to, for those of you, I know there's one person on the chat that just really, we unfortunately offend them for you pretty much doing anything like V-Ray. So I do want to render this scene quickly. And the reason why is because, or not quickly, without a ton of redo. I want to kind of capture the essence of this. But with holidays, to me, it's not holidays unless you have some holiday lights. It has the mood of like you're outside, you're in this snowy cabin, it's moody, there's atmosphere, there's fun, and the SketchUp aesthetic, I love it, but it's not going to I can't do lights, right? Of course. So that's why we have these great extensions.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to let me just think really quick. Normally I'll like storyboard this out and I'll say, okay, this is what I need. I need to do these 10 things before I get modeling. So I know exactly what I'm in for. I'm going to do that in real time with you all, and maybe even get some artist participation. I know that these trees, I want to do a snowy scene, which means that I need, first of all, if we're going to render it, I want new trees that both look high poly trees, but also if I could find some with some snow on it, that would be awesome. Second thing is I need to change, I want to use that same artisan snow technique that I just showed you during our warm-up exercise to put snow on stuff. And that's going to be some organic sculpting. So like we've got this deck, we've got these rocks that, we could drape that snow on and have some of that snow piles and drifts and things like that. So a little bit of manipulation there. The last thing, not the last thing, we need to change the environment. So we need to basically understand this is a night scene and there's going to be some environmental lighting that we want to bring in as well. And then, of course, I don't know whether this is first or last, but we need the actual lights themselves. So we need to decide if we want to put a tree in for those that celebrate that holiday. We want to put some string bulbs in or some white lights, which doesn't matter what holidays you celebrate. Stringing bulbs with a nice warm glow always looks awesome.
Did you put
So
lights up on your house
those are
this
some.
year?
I always do my one string, just one across the front, because that's all I ever have the energy
Yeah, I
for.
technically participated. It's do I have spirit or do I not? And I do, because look, I have lights. I do have lights, more than one. Uh, nice, I like it. Do you go for the colored strand, or do you go for the just the white ones?
Just the white ones. Yeah. Just the white ones. I have a colored strand. The problem is the LED. I bought them. I switched to LED, when that was became a thing,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it's like they're cool instead of warm,
Uh,
and they're not nearly as bright. So not to knock LEDs, because I think that's what we should be doing energy wise, but it's just not. I mean, they're just
you can
wimpy, and so
speak
I'm just
freely on
like,
this live stream.
I can speak freely. Yeah. I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend anyone.
Big LED is in the chat saying, "How dare you? You're making us look bad."
Big LED. Big LED. I bought your product twice. I bought colored, which I didn't like. So I went and bought your white ones, and they look much better. So there, you got twice as much money out of me.
Double it up, 2 strands. Wow, you're really pushing it this year. And Omar points out you can get the warm LEDs. I know they have come a long way in the last couple of
Yeah.
years, and you can get different
Yeah.
color temperatures. So, hey, maybe it's time to jump in and
That's
get
true.
some new
All
lights.
right. Speaking of before we can, that's a great segue. So before we even can put lights up, first thing I want to do is sort of turn the lights out in my model. So I have two ways to do that. Now in SketchUp, in SketchUp or in V-Ray, you can turn the sun off. You can turn the sun off, but the problem is it doesn't really treat it as night. It's still just going to feel like there's just no direct environmental lighting, but there's still this sort of ambient lighting that's sort of V-Ray, because you're not telling it also to be nighttime either. So just turning the sun off isn't sort of the best way to get a sense. And I'm also going to turn my materials override, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to, in fact, I'm going to reset the settings here just for anyone who is still new to V-Ray or is a V-Ray Pro, regardless. I'm going to go ahead and just press this little reset button. So anything I may have done in this model or anything I might have accidentally done, oops, I moved my dock.
There you go. Yeah, no, I like it. Starting from square one. Everyone's on the same page here. You can follow
We're all
along
on the
at
same
home.
page. So let me tell you what I do real quick. So what I do is I turn my denoiser on, turn my progressive off. That's two things. And then I come over here, and while I'm testing things out, I tend to match my viewport. What it does, it just means that whatever dimensions my viewport is, my render is that dimension. So I'm not clipping things out. If I decide I want a portrait render later, I'll make that decision. But early on, I'm not ready to do that. So I'll just automatically say match my viewport. And then there used to be a setting here where you could choose interactive, but they changed a bunch of stuff in this latest release. Not all of it, I'm going to say, not all of it I'm liking, but all change is hard and scary. It does take some time to adjust.
We fear change.
So obviously there's some really.
So you're using V-Ray
there's some
6
great-
here, is that right?
V-Ray 6, yes, the latest and greatest. So I'm up to date.
Cool.
So what I'm going to do is now I'm looking for a night sky. So what you can do is you can come over here to, if you go, the first place to look now is that V-Ray, the latest V-Ray, they're putting a lot of energy into Cosmos. Cosmos is their, we've mentioned this before, and this isn't just about V-Ray, so I'm not going to spend the whole time talking about it, but they have migrated a lot of energy, and some of the workflows that you're used to doing in the asset editor are now moving to Cosmos. So for better or for worse, that's just kind of the way things are going. The good thing is it means that they can keep their content on the cloud, and then you can decide which content you want. And so they can always push new content. And then when you want it, you can bring it into your model. So that's the advantage. So if I saw a sky here within their HDRIs, these are their default HDRIs, you could, easiest way would be just to start there. So these are HDRIs that are included in the Cosmos. Another way to do it, if I'm thinking of a night sky, is to come over here to the Light Gen tool. Oh, actually, you can see I actually did this as a test already. So what LightGen does is it basically generates parametric HDRIs. So that environmental lighting, it takes all these like sun position, sun size, time of day, number of clouds. It takes all that stuff and it just randomizes it. So you get these just random environmental skies, some of which could look really, really cool and dramatic, but then some of which might not be exactly what you're looking for. So if you're not sure, those are two great things to check first. But if you need something really, really specific, there's no beating going in and just going to a website, either downloading, Patreoning, or buying an actual HDRI file in a real world location.
So you see a big difference between like the auto-generated, the parametric generated ones versus like a true HDRI photo. Do you think there's a big difference between those? I mean, for what you're
No,
using
it's just
it
the
for?
control. No, the quality is going to be the same. It's just that the control, like, well, there's two big differences. The ones that generate parametrically, they have no ground plane or horizon. So if you wanted to use the image of, let's say, in a field or in a mountain or a lake or something like that, an HDR will have that image. So you actually can use that in the background of your model. So you don't have to model all that stuff. So that could be advantageous. Now, those other ones that you generate or you buy online, they're not going to have, they're just the sky and the light quality.
Right.
So if you want a ground plane, then you wouldn't get one. The second thing is if you need like exactly, like it's got to be this quality of light, you're probably going to have a hard time finding it with the generated ones. You're going to get close, but it's not going to be like exact.
Unless you make your own, I guess.
I'm going to browse. Yeah, you could go get your own. Holiday card, cabin, and I have one that I've used before, which is why I'm downloaded it. I'm going to give some props to, used to be called HDRI Haven. It's now called Polyhaven. So for those that are looking for some really great free resources for rendering Polyhaven, if you want to put that in the chat. So this one's called Moonless Golf. I've used this before in the past, and it's just a starry sky with a little bit of like city glow in the background. So maybe you're not that far from civilization. We're going to go ahead and give that a try. All right. So this will be cool, everyone. So for those that are like, the rendering, what's cool about rendering is you really gotta, it's unlike modeling from scratch. Whoa, how did I do that? That was a bug. Did you see that?
No, I was looking at Polyhaven. Oh, I changed.
I got the watermark from my Calvin and Hobbes drawing, just imported itself.
It's like some multiverse thing going on. We got.
How is that? How is that even possible?
Yeah, that's wild.
That is crazy. You know, it wouldn't be a live stream if something didn't go wrong, but this is a weird one. You'll notice that if I go to edit, yeah, there it is. That was fun. That is fun, folks.
It's leaking in from a different universe. We should also mention that Polyhaven is free, right?
Yes.
At least according to their website. I haven't used it, but
it's donation based, which is why I do like supporting those, because sometimes, especially with HDRIs, I want to try them. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to buy a bunch for really expensive and then find that none of them work. That's really frustrating, and it's kind of a waste of everyone's time and effort. So I do like to try some stuff. So if I find one I like, I'll usually kick a donation back to people who do that kind of stuff, because that is really helpful, obviously. If it's too dark, I'm going to go ahead and pop this up and go with, I don't know, I usually put in like 60 with the Polyhaven stuff. By default. That might be too much because I'm really looking for like I'm really looking for it to be darker. So the other thing too is that I haven't set a camera angle, but what I want to do is, this is where it gets tricky when you have too many things floating, but we're going to do the best we can. So that's kind of cool. So you can see the stars. If I look around, you can see the stars in the sky, which is pretty sweet. You can see some sort of ambient glow in the background. If I look this way, you can see also a tree line. So again, you get that tree line, which will show up in things like reflections as well.
Yeah, that's nice.
I'm going to stop there for a second, and I'm going to drop the intensity down by like half to 30, or maybe even more, maybe even like 20. And the reason for that is because, and I know it might be kind of a little bit harder to see on your screen, but the reason why is because we want our light to do most of the work.
Your
The other thing with the
your
dome
Christmas
light,
lights, your Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The lights that we're going to add later. Yeah, we want those to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm also going to select this thing called Use Transform. So what Use Transform does is that if I come over here and I select this, whoop, I don't want to go inside of it. If I just select this, then when I rotate, this is going to be kind of hard to see. I'm going to try to do it so you can see the sky. And I'm going to use the arrow key. So when I rotate the dome light, I'm actually moving it and rotating it. If you can see it look in the render viewport, the sky is rotating as well. So personally for me, I think that that should be the default, which is the use. Oh, okay, that's right. I'm going to model those, so I'm going to take those out. All right, so frame buffer there. All right, I think that's good. It's a nice dark view, and basically we're going to go ahead and let SketchUp, our lights do the heavy lifting. It's Friday, folks. So, if I need a moment to just let it gel and let it do its thing, that's why.
Hey, you're all good, man. I'm just anytime I see rendering on screen, I'm like just mesmerized by it. So you can say whatever you want.
What I like about it is that there's a relationship between modeling and rendering. Like, it's not just like I'm only applying render settings. Like, we are going back and forth. It's like a dance that I think that, and so anyway, that's what I like about it. You'll notice I've got some reverse faces, so we can get rid of that a couple of different ways. It probably just means our glass that I downloaded from 3D Warehouse. It was never used or intended to be for render. So it may just not have a thickness. So if you just give that a thickness, and that's these, then what you're going to do, just like a 0.25 inch, then what you're going to do is two things. You're going to give the glass a thickness, which is what it should have. And then you're going to also get rid of that by pulling that out. You're going to put that reverse face on the inside, which is where it belongs. So whenever you have a glass texture, if you see a reversed face, it could be because that's just basically that's just a warning that something's wrong. Like when I built this first of all a couple of years, 3 years ago now, which means that I'm 3 years better, and I would hopefully not make some of the same mistakes. But the same thing is not doing nearly as much rendering back then. I wouldn't have maybe thought to give this glass a thickness and reverse all these faces. So
nice. Well, good to know you're progressing. You're getting better, a little bit better every day. If you're looking back at your old work and saying, "Man, who made this? This is no good." Not that it's no good, but that it's could be done better, maybe.
No, I'm set in my ways. That's it. From here on out, that's it. I don't change anything. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to turn the trees off, and I'm going to turn the terrain off. I'm going to turn some stuff off because when I'm working, I'll often, like I said in that last, when we were doing the little Calvin Hobbes view, I like to set up call it a working scene, where I just kind of turn everything off, and it's really more for tag management and a render scene. So in this case, what I could do is go back and forth between whatever our final view is going to be and then working. And that way I can, like when we're adding lights and stuff like that, if I just want to focus on the house, I could do that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do some snow sculpting. This time, instead of pushing it down and sculpting up, I'm going to just give it a little bit of a thickness so that the snow sits above. And then the next thing I'm going to do, so what I'm doing is instead of drawing, I could trace, if it's a really simple shape, you could just trace on top of it. That's probably just as fast. But if it's more of a complex shape, just go into that group, grab that face. Sorry, it's a big model, so if it zooms in and out. Camera, field of view, 1. So if it's a so if it's a really complex shape, just grab that face, go in and put that on top. So let's go ahead and grab our artisan again. Has anyone said save yet in the comments? No one said save yet?
We had a couple for the last model, but none for this one yet. Oh. I think because it was still called Untitled on the last one, or Untitled V2 or something like that.
Okay. So I'm going to be careful about how much detail I want to show. And then in this case, I'm going to grab a much larger brush. So I'm going to grab like maybe 3 foot. Yeah, maybe 3 foot. And if you're using a bigger, so if you're sculpting over a bigger area, what you want to do is just adjust the strength of your pull and the radius of your pull to sort of respond. So in this case, if I wanted to do a really big one, I might go something like 5 foot and push this up even higher. And what you can see is that I'm getting much more sort of dramatic snow drifts than I would if I was just doing like a subtle one. Now, I don't know, you tell me, but I don't think flat roofs, maybe there's some architects on the call as far as like snow and flat roofs. I know there's maybe some things you need to do for extra load bearing, because I know traditionally we don't do that for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, I assume that's true. Although this is like a container kind of house looking thing, right? So I don't know
Yeah,
how.
like a modular kind of thing
Yeah.
where it's like yeah.
So I don't know if it's like, larger spans or something would need more support, but it doesn't look like too big of a load up there right now, at least. Unless you really pump up the
So
artisan.
yeah, this is where it gets tricky here, because I need to trying to think of how to do this. I kind of feel like just coming in with a circle and making that sphere. I'll show you what I'm getting at in a second and see if my inferencing. Actually, I don't even care because it doesn't even have to be perfect.
An imperfect sphere is your friend? Who knows?
Yes. Okay. So what I mean is that what I want to do is
No, that's a big snowball.
what I'm trying to do here. That's a big snowball, isn't it? It's a big. It's a. Oh, what was the? Is I think it was Happy Gilmore. Is it Happy Gilmore? Do you remember when the old lady pays him and doesn't she pay him in meatballs? And she makes him take the meatballs and puts and in his hand. She says, "Hold out your hands," and he's like, "No, I'm good." And he's like, "Hold." She says, "Hold out your hands," and she makes him eat it right in front of her. It's like that's a good meatball. Sorry, when you said that's a big snowball, that's where my brain goes.
Yeah, the lunch lady. Lady, you're scaring us.
You're scared. That was Billy Madison. Okay, I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not, but what I was trying to do was start with a curved shape instead of like a flat shape, because what I wanted to do was because if I do flat, no, I don't think that. I'm thinking out loud, which is why sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Okay,
It's working for me.
working for you. What I'm trying to do is just put in like the reason why I used a sphere instead of a square, and then because this rock is so irregular, if I sculpt it, it's going to have like ends are going to stick out from the rock itself, and it's really more like I just kind of want to show like a little bit of snow just settling on top. Like, do you see what I'm? Is it working?
Yeah. Yeah, a little snow pile, a little snow puddle.
Yeah, a little snow puddle. And so instead of using the sculpting in this case, because I'm okay if it's a little bit more regular, like I don't need it quite so irregular. If I wanted to make it irregular, I would. And then if it does stick out, like maybe, oh, that's kind of cool how it falls. If it does stick out here like this, I could just come in here and say intersect faces with model. And then I would just go in, grab that, group it. So my group delete. And then there we go. I've got a little snow mound there. So
nice. People in the comments talking about snow loads and saying that snow, rain, and wind are important consideration. Wind usually governs. And Studio RT Cool says snow load is local. It could be an issue of drifting on lower roofs. So good info to know.
Oh, good. RT Cool made it. I was going to say, if someone's going to give us some technical knowledge and sort of help, he's a great one to go to. So intersect faces with model. Again, I could sculpt, or I can just kind of add sort of these drifts and these mounds. Like when you're just doing something a little bit loose and I think the artisan works really good. But if I want something a little bit more specific, then I think coming in and strategically sort of placing them maybe is a good technique. I don't know. I've never tried this before, so I'm just if somebody in the chat's got a way to do it, like there isn't like a snow extension where you could just say just drape all of these with snow.
Could you do scatter with snowflakes? Just need
Yeah,
like
if you want
10
your model to
million
be like,
instances.
yeah, no, I think that probably the best way to do it is the artisan. The only thing is the only reason why I was hesitating here on these rocks is because it's such an irregular surface.
Sure.
Probably don't want a rock right there anyway because of the door. In fact, you might not see it because of the slope, but yeah.
I was thinking like how you did the flat thing on the roof. Could you do like Clothworks and drape that over a rock and then use that as the kind of the base to
Yeah,
build the snow frame?
I thought about that. I think, well, let's do the artisan way. Problem with Clothworks is that, first of all, it's a little bit tricky because it requires setup. And for me anyway, like you have to have a plane, you have to pin, and you have to have an object, and then you set that. So, and if it doesn't work, then you have to go through those steps again, and you have to do it again. So
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, that could work. And then what you would want to do is Clothworks would drape over, and it would, whatever was a bit larger than the rock would hang like a cloth.
Uh,
So you would have to clip that out. The only way it would work is sort of if you had a smaller rock and a bigger rock. So it's sort of draped over the smaller rock, but the bigger rock sort of covered up where it drapes.
mhm.
But I want to try something. Just bear with me, folks. I'm going to go in here, copy this, paste that in place, this rock here.
Mhm.
Oh, that didn't work. All right, I'm done. All right, we're gonna say that's enough. But the point is just for me a lot of
Abort.
times. Okay, abort. The point for me is usually to just demonstrate the technique. I don't necessarily have to apply it everywhere on every rock because otherwise it would be getting pretty old pretty quick. And we've got lights and we've got trees to do. So we've already got our environment. We've got our snow mounds. Let's go ahead and I do want to, yeah, I want to make sure that my snow is grouped. Let's go ahead and move on to trees, and then we're going to add, some lights. We're going to see what that looks like. So we're going to pop into trees here, and I'm going to turn my cabin off because I don't want that. I'm going to turn my terrain on. So I've got my snow, I've got my entourage. So we've got our snow. You can see what we've done. I've got one hidden there. So this is where it gets a little bit fun. We got to go into Cosmos for this because what we want is a tree
Sure.
with snow on it. Do I get that? We do. So I already have 3 that I was playing around with, which is pretty sweet. So this is why it's like Cosmos is a great feature now that it's come out with, because normally I would have to go online, I would have to find a high poly tree and purchase it, or I would download it, or I would build it myself. And so this is kind of cool that I can just grab one. I'm going to set it. Error, the importer was not found. Let's try it with a different one, a fresh one, and see if that makes a difference. Otherwise, I'm going to probably just do a quick restart.
Well, and these are already set up for V-Ray, right? Meaning like if you did it from scratch, you would have to like use V-Ray ready materials. And are there other stuff you would have to tweak in order to get it to work as like these do?
Hang on. I'm just going to press restart just briefly because it's not SketchUp, by the way, for the haters. It's V-Ray. It didn't load something. So
Cosmos being funky.
Yeah, I do get that sometimes. Maybe it's a preference that it doesn't like. It needs a fresh install, or maybe an update. Didn't do something. I didn't do something I was supposed to. So sometimes I will get some funky messages. I don't know what they mean. I think that's true. Also, too, and I'll be honest, like a lot of the stuff that V-Ray's doing with a lot of the stuff they're doing with the browser, like the Chaos Cosmos and going through the cloud and all of that, that's all new to them. And so when they push updates, they're also pushing hot fixes as well. So I'm not saying that they did anything wrong. I'm just saying that you'll see when you look at their change logs that sometimes hot fixes and things are required. So.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, what were you saying before that, Matt? We're going to try that again while you're talking.
Shoot, I can't remember, but
oh, trees. You said like if you had to make one.
Oh
like,
yeah,
versus
I was saying
going and finding
these
one.
are nice because they're already pre-made for everything you're doing in V-Ray.
Yep. So let's try this again and see if just wiping out the cache, clearing the cache solves that problem, which I figured it would. So I'm going to set these aside because these are going to be my not underwater tree. You don't grow underwater. I like to have a variety of trees. So I've got this one, I've got this one. So they're the same kind of species. It's just that you'll notice that it's got a different canopy shape, and that's kind of nice for variety. And then I want this one because I don't want just conifers. I also want a sort of a deciduous. So you'll notice in the way I built my model originally, I built it with 3 trees. So we're going to swap out the 3 trees. I just have to pick which one. So try to answer your question. Yeah, modeling a tree is actually in SketchUp, it would be really difficult. It's totally possible. People do it. I've built plants, but this is where having a specific engine that does just that is actually really cool versus a generalist tool like SketchUp.
What?
There are things like SpeedTree and that other, just renderers and Viz people use.
That's cool.
Copy
and
that.
These come in with like the proxy geometry too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they put you'll notice that they put if I go to X-ray mode, like they do have the branch structure if you look really close.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't know why they did that because it does actually, if you have hundreds and hundreds of trees, it does add, or thousands of trees, it will add some geometry. So what I'm going to do is while I'm in here, I'm going to use my extension hide all edges. And so what I'm going to do is that even though it's a proxy and it's way lighter than a photorealistic tree would be, I'm still going to hide those because then my model just stays super light and responsive. Because to me, performance is obviously, like a lot of people, performance is when you're working on these kinds of files, these kinds of models, you can't afford a second delay.
Yeah. And so even though that geometry is hidden, it still will show up or whatever in V-Ray. Like V-Ray still recognizes that it's there and that it's that kind of tree and everything.
Exactly. So the only reason why they show those edges so that I have a reference, like if you wanted to know where, if you really wanted to know where a branch is going to be or something like that, they're giving you like a low poly representation of the tree on purpose. And I think that's a good thing and that's the right thing to do. But it does, if you've got thousands and thousands of them, it's actually worth taking that extra step and just hide that. Because personally, for this kind of thing, I don't need to know like where the branch is and the trunk is.
Sure.
I just pop it in. I'm going to delete my tree, my 2D tree. I'm going to come over here, extensions, hide all edges. All right.
Now it's really a snowy scene. So we got trees done.
That was here. Now it's a snowy scene.
Oh yeah.
Uh-oh, I got a little fragment of my pine. So definitely want to take that out. So let's do a quick save, and I'm going to do a quick purge, and I want to see what my model is at.
Save.
Sorry, I had to get it in at least once.
It's okay. 4 million polygons. So even with these trees, like we're at 4 million. And for a lot of people, that's a big model. And for other people, that's maybe an average size model. But that's still a decent amount of geometry. So next thing I want to do is I want to turn this, for now I'm just going to turn it white, although I would want to find a snow. V-Ray does not have a great, I think, snow material. They may have one online, but I think in their browser, they don't have one. So let's go ahead and stop there. And let's take a look at our snow scene now that I did 3 things. I changed the lighting so that it's nighttime, so it's dark. I put some snow on some stuff, on the things that don't have snow currently, that aren't part of the slope. And then I switched out my 2D low poly trees for high poly trees. So the point I'm trying to get across is that it does take a lot of knowledge to know to do these things, but what I'm actually doing in the model is not very complex. Like there's nothing that's really extremely challenging, I think, or difficult. So let's go ahead and click a little interactive render here. And let's see if those trees make a difference. And I would like to think that they do.
Looks different to me.
All right, hang on. I'm going to go low. Let's do a low, and then
you go low. I'm going to go high.
That's right. When they go low, we go high.
I'll take the high road, and you take the low. You ever listen to Tenacious D? Ever heard of them?
Oh, I know Tenacious D, but 120. I don't like. Oh, there we go. I like that. All right. What I was trying to do is take those really big trees that are out of scale because they're in the horizon from the HDRI. They're bigger than our trees. So I rotated the HDRI so that those trees are sort of behind the camera. So that's what we've got. Now all we need to do to get this holiday scene, we need some lights. Like I said, I shouldn't have saved this for last, but we've got a good half an hour. So
Oh, we got time.
Everybody still
We
with
got
us?
nothing but time.
Everybody still with us?
Oh, we got people with us for sure. You have a question? Is that OBS I see in the menu bar? That would explain. Oh yeah, there's some sync.
Oh, am I syncing off a little bit? A little bit of delay?
Yeah, just a little bit. We'll address it after the stream for sure. But yeah, good eye on the OBS logo in the top bar there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll apologize to anyone if the sync gets out at all. It's not our fault. We're aware of it. We're doing the best we can. I just want to thank everybody for just continually patience, pushing through, sticking with us. I'm going to come over here and I want to grab this light. What I did was I added we were talking about OBS during that, but I grabbed a sphere light from my V-Ray Lights menu and I copied it all the way across. I'm cheating because we're going to see it from a distance. So all I want to see is the light. I actually thought about modeling strings and modeling like light, how thick, it's from a distance. You're not going to see any of that. So I'm going to divide that by, what do I think, 50? It's just a light, so it shouldn't. I'm going to blame OBS.
Oh, it's got to be.
Somebody else. Yeah, I'm going to blame OBS. All right, those are big lights. I'm going to call that 50 looks good. Can you see those? That's what I'm referring to. This little sphere, that's a light. It's a component, so that what's cool is that if you copy it, it will act just like a component. That light will show up anywhere that light shows up. Those properties, when I change the properties, it'll show up on all of them.
Nice.
Now, if I wanted one to be different, I can just go over here and say make unique. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just grab that same light, and I want to figure out, oh, this is where this could be kind of fun here. This is a good technique to show, is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab a line, hide this, weld this, and then I'm going to paste, not the tree.
Oh, every year I put up trees on my house, string up a row of trees up there.
I'm going to use path. Oh yeah, the trees are fun. They're hard to get off. They're fun to get up, but then you're like, I gotta take these down now. It's like, I really wound this one tight. When my parents' house, when I was little, I still like to climb trees. I would go, they had this giant liquid amber, and I would climb to like the top branch, like where it's going to break, like it's so thin. And I would go as far as I could up. And everyone would say, get down. That's too. Path copy. I need to figure out what the distance is. I don't know what this distance is, so I'm going to measure it from there to there. I'm going to say that that's about a foot. So I'm going to come over here, extensions, path copy. It's going to ask me, what do you want to copy? I want to copy this string light. It's how far do you want it? I want them 1 foot apart. And what I did was I just got a string now. So what's cool about this, and I'm going to leave them loose for a second because I'm going to group them all. I'm going to use a trick to group them all in just a second. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to come down here. And I'm just going to place that off to the side for right now. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the deck. It's not perfect. We're just trying to get lights up here. And then to save myself some time, I'm going to cheat by going up and over.
Okay.
See what I'm doing at? So what I'm going to do is if I turn my cabin and my entourage off. Oh, that's supposed to be on entourage. It's on my glazing layer. Not layer, excuse me, tag. This was. Do you remember what year? Pop quiz. Do you remember what year we changed it from layers to tags?
Too many years ago for you to still be making that mistake.
Too many years ago for me to make that mistake. That's a good answer. I'm going to weld that. That's the right answer.
Like you said earlier, you're stuck in your ways, so,
Like I said earlier, I don't change. I know once I've learned to do it one way. So what I did was I did path copy there. And then to cheat it, I'm just going to, I just deleted the lights on the vertical. So I didn't have to do that 2 times. I just did one big string and then I just deleted the ones that I didn't want.
This is way easier than putting up lights in real life.
From here, I hope, I'm going to select this. I'm going to select these and I'm going to say select all instances. The nice thing about that is you can see my lights here that I've selected. I'm going to group them. So that way I've got my lights. If I wanted to, I could put them on a tag. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to go to my render scene. I don't know. I still don't know what our final scene is going to be. And I'll let the audience, maybe that's a good poll. We can let our audience choose whether we should look down at it, look up at it, sort of be far away from it. I think close up, something like that, kind of makes me think that's where I want to be, but I'm not quite sure. So I'm just going to update that for right now, and then we can change it later if we want to.
Okay, I'll put a poll up. So you said looking down at it, looking up at it, or
should we want to look down at it, far away, close up, looking down, looking up, or just kind of looking straight on? Maybe just give like 3 or 4 options. And while you're doing that, I am going to tweak the light settings itself. So the actual light, the sphere light that I put in there, I need to actually give it, change the color if I want to warm it up a little bit. And then, of course, if I want to change the intensity, I don't know yet. I haven't done a test render, so I don't know what the intensity should be for these. So while you're doing that poll, I'm going to run a quick test render. I want to see how these lights. So these lights, if you can see that, they are there. They're showing up.
I can see that.
This is a good point in time to make a kind of a big sort of workflow decision. You can, oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't string them along. If we're going to look at it from this angle, I got to string them along that right side or else it's going to bug me. This is where we get to decide where we can either add more light to our model to brighten this up a little bit. I haven't done any interior lights yet. Or what we could do is we can also start, before we even get there, we can even start to bring in an exposure correction. And we can start to push things like the exposure up a little bit, or the contrast, or the highlight burn. So we can even begin to play with some of these settings before we've even got to like what I would call a final render. The other thing I want to point out too is that because this is kind of a night scene, snowy scene, I want to add in my camera under effects, there's this thing called vignetting. So, just a camera vignette. I can add that in V-Ray. So if I render that again, and I'll just render, instead of an interactive render, I'll just render that as a static render so that we can get like the full quality. So it's going to run through. This will show you how long it takes actually at 900 pixels. So we're watching this in real time. So if you did it at 5,000 pixels or 10,000 pixels, of course, it's going to be much slower. But at 900 pixels, it renders pretty quick, even with all this high poly geometry.
Yeah, that's cool.
Can you see that okay, Matt? Or should I just brighten it up just for the purposes of the audience? Just even though I'm going to brighten it up.
I can see it. I mean, I know it's a night scene, so it's supposed to be dark.
It's a night scene. We're going to add some more lights. I want the lights to be, I'm going to turn my denoiser. I'm going to put that to mild okay. So now what we need to do is light the inside of the cabin. So right now what we did is I put my string lights in. I think they look good. I'm also going to go ahead and turn on my lens effects. So what lens effects does is bloom and glare. So like if you look, when you take a camera at night, how you get twinkles, you take a picture and you get those twinkles. Or sometimes like when you're driving in your windshield and you see the headlights or the street lamps twinkle at you. So if you turn your lens effects bloom and glare on, that's what that sort of glowing like affects, because you wouldn't see it in real life. You'd see it only the camera lens picks that up.
Yeah, very good.
I call it lens effects.
Real quick, there's some couple quick questions in the chat
yes, please,
to address here. Somebody says we should use something besides OBS. I don't know. We use OBS in our workflow. We're always looking to see what other things are out there. So maybe we'll look into it, but OBS works for the videos we're trying to make. Somebody asked about Kirkithia. Have you ever used that as a renderer? I think it's by the same people who make Thea.
Yeah, I believe it's called Thea now. Used to be Kirkithia, which is hard to, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, but
yeah.
I know which one you're talking about. And Thea render, I think Dave Richards uses Thea, gets pretty good results. So I think if you're doing big, like environmental stuff, I think you're going to, like a lot of things, you're going to top out. You're going to sort of run out of options. But I think if you're just doing these kind of quick renders and you're doing objects and studio lighting, I think it's a perfectly good solution.
Very cool. And then we had a question about the lights. You mentioned earlier that all the little string lights are components. So can you change like the V-Ray information about those? Like, can you, for example, change the color temperature to be a different color for all of them?
Yeah, let me do that. I'm putting a spotlight in here. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to pretend that there's some can lights. So depending on our angle, we may or may not see them, but I'm kind of wanting some interior lighting. And this model does not have light fixtures because that was never really what it was intended for.
Hmm.
So what I'm going to do, just let me go ahead and just put some spots in just for now, to sort of mimic the look of can lights, and then I'll go back and answer that question.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Divided by 5, divided by 5. I don't know how many is too many. I think that's probably the right amount if you think about your lumens that you need. That's a Christmas tree right here. Yes, folks, I know it's
Looks like it's got a
still
trash bag
celebrate. A
over
lot of
it or
people still
something.
celebrate Christmas,
Oh,
so the intent is that this is going to be designed to be a Christmas tree. If we really wanted to get into it, we would use something like Helix extension, and we would create like a conical like string, and then we would run our bulbs in a string. But I think I'm going to cheat it a little bit and just come over here to scatter. Did you ask about scatter, Matt, if I was going to scatter stuff?
yeah. I was going to ask if you scattered individual snowflakes across the entire thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to my working scene here. No, I don't. I'll just go back to my render scene, turn my trees off and my glaze off. No, we're not going to, you don't scatter snowflakes. Actually, you could. If you wanted to make snowflakes and you wanted to give the illusion that they were falling in your model, you could create a literally like a cube, like a volume. So you would randomly scatter them across a plane, and then you would basically copy that plane and randomize it. And then what you would have is you would have a volume of snowflakes. So they're actually physically in the model rather than an effect that you would do afterwards.
See, I'm not just only here to give you a hard time and, say dumb stuff. I'm also giving you ideas for future snowflake renders.
I'm going to try scattering this, and I don't know if it's going to work because I found that the scatter settings, I haven't used it a lot lately, to be honest with you. It's been a long time, and they changed it to version 2, and they changed not only the way it looks, but they added a lot of, see, change is hard, folks. They added a lot of new features to it, and I haven't had the time, or haven't made the time to go in and sort of figure out like what that actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with that. Only I want to go collisions. Does it let me do collisions on this? No, I'm just going to go with that. So with scatter, if I'm doing really high poly objects, I can say render only, which means that it won't show up in my model. But since these are just lights placeholders, I'm going to just generate those. And that way I can see them. They're actually in my model. So if I did want to delete some or move some, like if you didn't want lights down low, like in this case, down near the skirt of the tree, like for whatever reason, because I generated the string lights, but they're on the outside, so they're on the house. So good habits is to name your components and also name your V-Ray objects as well, so you actually know. So if I turned one off for some reason, or if I had to change the color of one, like in this case, I don't know. I don't know if I want to change the color of them or not. But let's say I do. I want more white, like a lighter white. I can change the color. You'll notice now I have the tree is going to be a lighter than what's on the outside of the house, if it works the way that I want it to.
So can you change color temperature in there, or is it?
Yes. I'll do it with my spotlights, my can lights.
Okay.
So my spots are here. First of all, right now with spotlights, you have to kind of be careful. You need to think about what units they are. So like, the reason why is because a lot of people make them, I don't want to say mistake, because it's just the way that spotlights work, is that their intensity needs to be, excuse me, really high to work. So if you have them on and it's like, they're not showing, it's dark, it's broken, it's probably because their just intensity is not high enough. So I'm just going to put something like really high, like 100,000 or 10,000, like a really high number. And then from there, if I need to, I can dial it up or back. But just, you just learn that. So there's different ways you can do the warmth. Like if you wanted to change the color, there actually is a Kelvin. There's actually, don't quote me on it, but there is a Kelvin scale. So if you knew exactly you were trying to hit a certain thing and make it more realistic, you could use, here it is. Here's Kelvin down here. Yeah.
He said
So you
change it
could
to
actually
3200. Or these
3200.
are for the. He was talking for the string
Oh,
lights, but yeah, this
these are
works
for
too.
the cans.
Yeah,
So let's try it. We can always adjust it. All right.
nice cozy warmth
So I'm going to
inside.
just,
Go ahead.
the other thing I need to do is double check. Okay, I've already got a glass setting. That's great. So I somehow, for whatever reason, when I built this, I actually maybe did a test render on it. So I actually do have V-Ray glass on there, which is good because I'm going to need to be able to see through in order to be able to see what I've done on the inside. So let's just do a quick test on that. Whoops, that's not a test. I did a static render. All right. It's a little, the spots are a little warm and it's a little uniform. So what I could do is I could space them out a little bit further so that you actually see the can. So that's what I was talking about with the bloom and glare. Did you see that right there? There.
Oh yeah,
That's coming in from the HDRI. That's an image, but because it's an EXR, that light information is embedded in it. So even though that's an image, it's still that sunset is creating a glare and V-Ray. Those are the kinds of things where I go, oh, that was a total accident. But
it's cool because
really
you can see the
And
overlay, like it goes over the side of the hill there too. So it's like makes it more realistic because yeah, the light's going over that. That's cool.
All right, so I'm surprised at how well that tree came out for having just literally clicked on a random setting and not having used scatter in a very long time. I think that looks awesome.
It does
So
look good. Nice
kudos. Kudos. So for those lights, I'm going to dial those down, not Cosmos. I'm going to go. Oh, I want to save. Oh, that's all right. If we have time, I would love to just take this exported view, pop it into layout, and put some text on it. I feel like it'll be finished as a holiday card when I do that. So I'm going to give myself 10 minutes at the end. So that one was too warm. I know that was the 3200. I'm going to make that a little bit wider. And of course, I can always do color adjustments. It's a little bright, so I'm going to pop that down from 100,000 to 10,000. And then the last thing I want to do is grab one of these lights, and I'm going to need to put it in the lower. I think it's going to look weird if it's not in the lower, if it's not in here as well. And maybe I'll just do two. This is the hard part about like designing, modeling, rendering, is that you've got to ask yourself all these decisions. And that's the fun part about it. But it's also, oh, you know what we can do? We do have a light fixture. We have two light fixtures, one up high and one down here. So when you're inside of there, you can just go ahead and add a sphere. And I'm going to have to move it. I guess I could add a spot if I wanted to. Sorry, I'm inside the cabin, so it's like I'm inside the house, so it's hard to get that angle without cutting sections. To get this.
It's coming from inside the house.
The light is coming from inside the lamp. Why would it be coming from inside the lamp? I might just cheat it and just bring it down. There we go. I don't care, because what you can do is that last sphere light that I just added, that one is going to be called lamp, and you can actually make the bulb itself invisible. So if I go to options, no, not on dome light, lamp. If I go to lamp, options, invisible. So what's cool about that is that it, and I'm just going to pick a random color, and I'm going to bump that up to 200. Yeah, so what you're going to see is the effect of the glow, but you're not going to see the circle, the actual circle.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing I do too is sometimes, depending on the model, I may actually want to sort of fake lighting, almost like think about stage lighting. So sphere lights are kind of my favorite. You'll notice here, if you haven't noticed, I kind of use sphere lights for more than I should, because I think that it's for somebody who doesn't know that much about V-Ray. They're kind of a good general tool. It's kind of a generalist one.
So they essentially just kind of put the same light off in every direction, but with like a natural fall off and stuff, right?
Yeah, so exactly. So going back in, I've got these two sphere lights I just added. I'm just going to call this ambient left, And I'm going to call this, where's my other sphere light? Yeah, that one's not the lamp. Okay. Ambient, right. Okay. So what you can do is not only can you add cool colors, like if I wanted to cool the scene down, I might add like kind of a teal green on one or a teal blue, and I might come in with something like a purple, like a bluish purple on another. And I know that that might seem garish, but that's okay. We're gonna make them invisible and we can dial it back. The whole point is that like any good sort of atmospheric, oh, we don't want to affect reflections because we don't want this light to show up in reflected in our glass, in our glazing, because this is all about just kind of mood lighting. It's not actually a real source.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what that does.
It's a good
And
tip.
then after that, we're getting really close for those that are, oh wait, oh, I dialed back my spots
Oh
too
yeah.
much, didn't I? Now I did the
Went
opposite.
from
All right,
100,000 to
so
10,000.
yeah, you're right. That was a big jump. So I want to come up here to my, where are they? Spotlight. Let's go back up to the 100,000. Oh, you know what I might have done? I might have placed them in the ceiling on
Ah,
this lower one. If they're in the ceiling, it's literally going to start casting from inside of the ceiling, which is why it won't come down. So what I need to do is check those and bring them down. The second thing is, as you can see, is that if the ambient light, it is making an effect, but not a huge one. So if I push that up, if I kind of exaggerate that a little bit, and maybe bring those colors a little bit more in line with each other, so they're more like two sides of a coin, right? So it's
mhm.
sort of more like
It's like moonlight.
it's mood light. All right,
Wait, moonlight
that's
or moonlight?
better. Oh, it could be both. So wait, what did the poll? What was the result of the
Oh
poll?
yeah, it's still going. Let's see. And
I need to do a final render here so that we can get done on get these folks to lunch and to happy hour or whatever it is, whatever time zone they're
the
in.
answer, looking up, 39% takes the cake. So looking up is the angle, kind of match the one you were talking about earlier. So that's good. We also had a question about HDRI files, and you just use them from V-Ray, right? You don't. They're not in the actual SketchUp model. Like that would just be.
They are not in the SketchUp model. They're not geometry. They're images, and they're images with extra information, right? So it's not just, you can't just use a JPEG. You could, but what it would do is it would only show up in the background and it wouldn't not cast light. So you couldn't use it to like a sunset image to light your model like a sunset. That's an HDRI, or what would be like what's called .exr format, which is not a format you would normally work in. So, but what it does is basically it's like HDR is high dynamic range imagery. So it captures everything from like the darkest darks to the brightest brights. So basically it's capturing multiple exposures and it's embedding it in one file. So when you use that metadata, it can be read by V-Ray as light information.
Gotcha. So you put that into the
If
renderer,
that's
not into the SketchUp lab.
It's in the renderer. So you put a dome light in, which I have my dome light here, and that won't render obviously because it's just geometry, it's just lines.
Mm-hmm.
And the dome light is the signal to pull an HDRI into your V-Ray seat. And then you can choose which dome HDRI image you want to link to this dome light. And you can have multiple dome lights, which means you could have you actually could have multiple environmental light sources. So if you have more than one on at the same time, you could have light sources from two different images, creating kind of a weird effect if you wanted to do that. Or what you can do is you could do a day and a night, and you could link them to tags to scenes, which I've done before. It's in our V-Ray course on SketchUp Campus. I show you how to do that basically. So you can have a day scene and a night scene, and you can literally just click one of your scenes, and you can toggle between the two. So good question.
Thanks.
Oh, did I? Oh, I know why. That's okay. Yeah, any other questions as to why I'm doing what I'm doing? I think we're about ready to be done. Everything else I'm going to do it in post-production. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a final shot here in just a minute when I grab these lights here. And do you remember how I said that it was going to bug me? if I didn't have them on.
Yeah. Got to run them down the backside too. You can't be.
Yeah, I gotta run them there, or else somebody didn't do a great job, which if it was me doing the lights, then that might be why.
You ruined Christmas. Christmas is canceled this year because of your lights shenanigans.
Hey, speaking of Christmas, coming back, A Christmas Story, that movie is getting a reboot. I actually watched the trailer for that and I was like, I don't know, this one could be one of those. I don't like watching reboots that alter the memories from my childhood, but I was like, this one could be one that would be fun to watch. So,
Yeah, it's out.
anyone else? Any
I
thoughts?
haven't seen it, but I heard it was fine enough. Like not like horrible.
See, fine enough is what I'm looking for. That's exactly how I want to describe. Not don't waste your time. It's going to ruin your memories of the original. You're going to hate it. You're going to wish you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1 foot times 3.
But yeah. Anybody in the chat? Are there holiday movies that you watch every year? Traditions that you have that you are looking forward to in the coming weeks here? What about you, Eric? Do you have anything that you look forward to every year that's part of your holiday tradition, your holiday experience? Nah.
The fact I had to think about it, I mean, I don't know. We sometimes go look at other people's lights,
Mm-hmm.
and say, see, kids, that's what your dad could do someday when you're older. When you're older, your dad is going to do it's going to be like Clark from National Lampoons, where I'm like, that's the kind of house that I'm going to do someday. All right, I'm going to stop monkeying around. I'm going to go ahead and lock this view because you guys said from down looking up. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat this one last time. I'm going to grab a tree here, copy it, go outside of my tree group, paste it in place, and I'm going to sort of very delicately, trying to, without moving the camera, the reason why I say cheat it is because I don't care now if I don't care the scale. I don't care if it is floating off the ground. I said I was going to try not to change the camera. I'm going to add this in to just frame, literally to kind of try to frame this in a little bit. So it feels like you're literally nestled in. And we'll see if adding these sort of trees more, I don't know if that is going to help or not, but I kind of want to feel like it's more.
Yeah, totally.
It's a little bit denser.
That's a good tip. Yeah. It's once you have your composition.
Once you have your view, it doesn't matter if this is.
Yeah, if it's in the foreground, it can be doing whatever it wants as long as it's looks good in the image.
So in typical Eric fashion, I like to cut things close. I'm going to change my render output to 2000 pixels. And the reason why is because we don't want to be here all day. And I'm going to bump my quality up just a little bit. And I'm going to think really fast if there's anything else I need to do. I don't think so. We're going to go ahead and go for it. We're just going for it. Next time in the comments, you guys can tell me and say, well, don't start with the Calvin and Hobbes warm-up if that was a waste of the time. Instead, we could just spend way more time doing this. The reason why is because not everybody wants to come for rendering, to be honest with you. And I get that. I'm doing what I enjoy doing, and I hope that enthusiasm and that passion translates for you. But I also know that you, our community watching, is why we do this stuff. So I really try and find a balance between, like, this is interesting to me and this is fun for me, and I expect or hope that for a lot of you, you feel the same.
Yeah, totally. No, we had good feedback about the Calvin and Hobbes, but also about the rendering. I mean, I think it's been a great stream so far. While this is going, we have a couple people in the chat talking about their holiday plans. Transom says the Grinch. So many different Grinches nowadays, but they're all good. Are they all good? Some of them are good.
I don't know. That Jim Carrey one is hard to. My daughter loves it, but that one's hard to. I love Jim Carrey.
Would you like that one or the Benedict Cumberbatch one better? You probably haven't seen the Benedict Cumberbatch one, have you?
I have. I actually did take my kids to see that one in the theater. Although I fell asleep because they have, they have these recliners now, and that's dangerous for that's because I just I lean it all the way
Sure.
back, and then I realize it's like, oh, this is a not only is it a story, it's a kid's story that I already know. Um, so it's really for them. I go for them and I take a nap.
Yeah, you're still, looking after him if you're snoozing a little bit. Speaking of snoozing, Lawrence says he's looking forward to eating too much, drinking too much, and sleeping too much. It's a good, midwinter plan, I think.
I think that's expected. I mean, we need to get more in touch. I say we as if like somehow I'm doing everything the right way. I don't, but like, getting into some seasonal rhythms is the way that, we used to probably a long time ago, where it's okay to slow it down a little bit and nestle in. Maybe coming out of the pandemic, though, people are like, no, that's the last thing I want to do is just sit at home all day in my PJs because that's what we've been doing. Maybe they want to get out, but at the same time, it's totally okay.
Yeah. Do you get out? Do you do like winter activities, or because you're in Portland, right? There's not like it's not like a big
Well, I'm in
snow.
California. I'm up and down the west. I'm in
Oh
California
yeah,
now,
shoot, I
so I'm
forgot
up
you
and down the
moved.
west coast. Portland is a great place to do winter activities because they actually are getting seems like regular snow in the Pacific, not just Portland, but Pacific Northwest is getting some decent snowfall lately, last year and this year.
Hmm. I'm embarrassed
So I
that I
don't know if
forgot
that's
you
good or
moved.
bad. Yeah, it's all right. I try and it doesn't matter anymore. I could be in Spain and then tell you I'm in California. You wouldn't know. It
Yeah,
would just be, what time is it in Spain right now? Is it the same as the UK folks? Are you on sort of like it's the early evening, probably?
okay, or I think it would be 1 hour past them, or depends. Is Spain more than one time zone? I don't know. But
I don't know.
who knows? I don't know if Spaniards are expecting a white Christmas, but you probably are not out in California. Eh?
Nope. Nope. I do everything I normally do. You just go out and run and hike and walk the dog and for me, I know if it's cold when I put regular shoes on instead of flip-flops, then I know it's like it's cold out there today.
Hmm.
I need to put shoes on.
Now, do you
So
miss?
this is almost done.
Okay.
This isn't too bad. The timing, I just hope for those that just from a technology standpoint for people who are like, my renders are taking too long. It's like that's 2000 pixels with a ton of high poly trees, lots of lights, lots of glass distortion. So you can see that what did that take? Maybe 5 minutes?
Yeah,
All right. And then the last thing we get to do is, sorry, I cut you off, Matt. You can I'll be quiet. I'm just going to make some adjustments and feel free to, yeah, keep the winter chat going because we're going to go up to time today. I'm going to take my time and take the last few minutes to kind of make some adjustments to this.
I like it.
Uh,
Uh,
there is a white balance control, by the way. So if you wanted to, like if I wasn't wintry enough, you could come in and pull that temperature out. You could push it up if you wanted like a really warm, the hillside, like a California winter, means the hill's probably on fire behind you and it's got a nice glow. Or we can just I think pulling that back a little bit is probably the way to go. And the color balance as well you can do. So you don't need to go into Photoshop like the way that I maybe used to. Pull a little bit of blue, maybe a lot of blue, and pull in a little bit of cyan. The only problem is here, you got to be careful. And that's why I put those two lights in, is because I was hoping to get some ambient lighting using colors rather than, because if I tweak these, what it's going to do is it's going to pull, I could do shadows, mids, and highlights. I have a little bit of control, but ultimately it's going to affect, you can see it affects the warmness of what's happening in my house.
mhm.
So if I really, really wanted to, if I was really sensitive, I would export this out, mask out what's happening inside, and I would make my color corrections to the exterior, or I would adjust the lighting. I would add a light mix layer, and then what light mix does is it allows you to add boost the environmental colors, but it tells you to leave the lights on the inside alone. So the cool thing about that is if I wanted to recompensate by pushing the warmth up a little bit, I could do that. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know,
cool because these
how
are
does that
global.
look?
Like you're
Purpley?
changing the color of the sky and stuff too when you're changing this.
Yeah. I'm going to just leave it, I'm going to leave it on the bluer side just for now. And if I wanted to, I could pull out, this is kind of the fun part because I think of it like cooking. It really feels more like, it's like cooking. You just decide when you think it feels right. Like when you're tasting, you're taste
Yeah,
testing,
season to
and you're
taste.
like, seasoned taste. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. All right, because I know I said we were gonna stop on time. I'm gonna kick this out. Holiday day card, and I'm gonna pop over here. We're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna put my holiday message on here for everyone out there. You can see I already did that. You can see I already created a Calvin Hobbes, but we decided not to. We decided not to spend 2 hours on Calvin. So I'm going
Shame.
to create a new file. Doesn't matter what size because I'm just going to change it. Ultimately, I'm going to come in and make this holiday card size. I'm going to say document setup units. We're silly Americans, so we use this fractional imperial system. And I want to go 7 inches by 5 inches, and that's going to be a typical card size. And I'm going to close that out. Pop over to my desktop where I saved my holiday card render. And I'm going to hold shift so that I can get that. So this is if I was like really smart. If I was really smart, I would have thought a little bit more about, I would have gone in at the end and changed the dimensions of the render because you can see if I have two options. I can either put the message below and then have some white space, or what I'm going to do is use this as a clipping mask. And what's cool about the clipping mask is that I could come in still and adjust. I could still adjust my SketchUp model.
Mm-hmm.
And do it like that. So if I was, so my point is I rendered some more. I spent like 2 minutes rendering stuff on the sides of the card that I didn't, so I could either get a custom card printed for this or not. But because I don't like leaving things unfinished, I am going to come over here and wrap up. Before I say thanks and goodbye, I am going to send you a holiday message by saying happy all. I just said happy holidays. Don't talk and type at the same time.
That's a good tip.
Because I was thinking in my head from all of us at, right? So from all of us at SketchUp. And typography wise, what do you think would go with? Okay, I'm going with that. And I'm going to go with white to go with the snow. And I'm going to go. Good enough. Good enough. Okay. So you can see that my bounding box there was a little bit small. From all of us, happy holidays. From all of us at SketchUp. No. From all of us at SketchUp. This is where like the graphic designer in you starts to be like, oh.
Yeah. Thinking about kerning and things. There's a lot to consider
exactly.
when you got a card of this stature, of this quality. Yeah.
All right. I said we were gonna. I said okay. I'm all right. Hey, look at that. 2 minutes too. That's perfect. I'm going to go into and because Matt, because you reminded me, I'm going to go into presentation mode, and I'm going to run over here, and I'm going to press my my thank you button. Nope, my intro button. Matt's wondering what I'm doing.
Like, what's
I
going
was
on?
going back. You're wondering what I'm doing. I was going back to making my head big, and I wanted this behind me. So it took me 3 tries to do that. It's late. It's late for some of you. It's early for some of us. I'm going to just stop there because we are right at time, and I want to thank literally everyone because this is the end of the year. We've got a few more fun surprises coming out over the next couple of weeks. So even though some of us will be going offline for the holidays, Doesn't mean that content's going to stop completely, so keep an eye out. Again, make sure for those of you that aren't already, subscribe, tell some people. We're almost to 500,000. I was hoping we'd get there by the end of the year. Sorry, not 500,000. Yeah, 500,000, 500,000. We're almost to 500,000. We got about 464,000 people. It'd be really awesome if our 2023 goal would be to get us to that 500,000 mark, actually get past that 500,000 mark. So anyone who's watching right now, spread the good SketchUp word along with the holiday cheer that you're spreading. And Matt, why don't you take us away and get some music, and we will end it there.
Yes, we totally will. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. I only have one song. I can play the same one from the beginning. Here we go.
Do the same one again.
Not very Christmassy, but hey, have a good one.
Okay, now I'm switching my screen to the proper one. Okay, so I'm out. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Happy New Year.
See you in the new year.